Mrs. Lee Rice. Might as well. I'm walking through a ghost town, y'all ain't playing my sounds. Don't tell me to calm down, don't tell me to calm down. Only time I go backwards is when I wanna moonwalk. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. Don't test me, my mood's wrong. We are who we say that we are. You were lost in the stars, and it's all from the start. Never running no pace, never on the right page. But we still read that book, and we still run that race. Ay. Mississippi Racer riding out, no shortcuts, no time for that. Mississippi Racer riding out, till the wheels fall off, I'm driving that. Mississippi Racer riding out, we'll stop burning, strike the match. Mississippi Racer riding out, red light, green light, red light, good night. Ay. Red light, green light, red light, good night. 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 Time to chill, don't sweat it.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Tuesday, sir.
Happy Tuesday, partner, to everybody out there joining us.
Mo, we got a lot to unpack this morning. Let's start with the Tyreek Hill situation. In rapid time, we have body cam footage released. This all went down Sunday morning. By Monday afternoon, body cam footage had been released. If you haven't seen it, you can Google it. It's available everywhere right now. And the gist of it is that Tyreek Hill was indeed speeding. He sped past a group of police officers who were on their motorcycles, and they stopped him literally half a block from Dolphin Stadium. Routine traffic stop that I will admit, Mo, Tyreek Hill did not help the cause initially. So upon the stop, the officer tapped on Tyreek Hill's window. When Tyreek Hill rolled his window down, he asked the officer not to tap on his window. Officer asked for whatever he asked for, license, I think, and registration. Tyreek Hill, I guess he felt he wasn't validated by the officer with his request not to tap on the window, so he said it again. At this point, you could already tell, Mo. You can tell by body language in the cam. You can tell by tone from the police officer in the video that there is already tension between him and Tyreek Hill at this point. From Tyreek's request to not bang on his window. Tyreek provides what he is supposed to provide at that point, and I guess Tyreek picked up on the tone from the officer as well because he seemed agitated, and Tyreek made a comment, just, can I have my ticket and can we move on? Which, by the way, he has every right to do. I mean, he knows that he was speeding. He knows that he's probably going to get a ticket for this. He knows that he has no outstanding warrants for his arrest. He knows that he's not in trouble with the law. He knows that he has a ticket or two coming his way, and he knows that he has places to be as well. So he just wants to speed the process up. He would just like his ticket, and he would like to move on. So he makes the comment, can I just get my ticket so I can get going? And he rolls his window up, apparently to wait for his ticket. Well, that did not please the officer, who was not happy with Tyreek rolling the window back up. He requested that the window be rolled back down. Tyreek ignored the request. He asked again. Tyreek dropped the window a little bit to acknowledge the officer. And once again, I believe he asked to just get his ticket and move on. That did not please the officer. At that point, the door was opened. Tyreek was pulled out of the car, and it became quite ridiculous, in my opinion, for a traffic violation, which was speeding. Tyreek was pulled out of the car. He was forcefully put on the ground. There was a knee or two in his back during all of this. He was handcuffed. He was on the phone with his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, at the time, telling Drew, I'm getting arrested. I'm getting arrested. Drew, I don't know where Drew was. Apparently, Drew was attending the Dolphin game that day because Drew got to the scene before Tyreek was even out of handcuffs. Drew Rosenhaus was down there. So props to Drew for showing up and showing out for one of his top clients. He got there lickety split. Then there's this thing where they're walking Tyreek in the handcuffs over to the curb or whatnot. and they want him to sit, and they force him down again. Tyreek makes a comment about his knee. Now, mind you, during all of this, the fella that was placed on the administrative leave, he's chirping with Tyreek Hill. He's asking Tyreek Hill if he also got his surgery on his ears because he can't effing listen or something. I've watched Cops, guys. I know that sometimes things can get a little testy. But at the same time, when you watch shows like Cops and whatnot, usually officers will chirp at people who are chirping at them. In Tyreek Hill's defense, Mo, he wasn't really doing anything. Yes, he said, "Can you just give me my ticket and can we move on?" Yes, he rolled his window back up. But from the moment that car door was opened and he was forcefully extracted from his vehicle, he didn't do anything. He seemed pretty compliant in the video. He obviously did not enjoy being thrown on the ground, but even as he's thrown on the ground, he's not talking to them. His phone falls out of his hands. His phone's on the ground next to his face. He's yelling to Drew, "I'm getting arrested." As they're trying to force him into a seated position, he's saying that, "I just recently got surgery on my knee," like basically saying, "Can you ease up on me here a little bit?" The initial cop also threw a curse at him when they first pulled him out of the car too. I don't recall what that was. And then the video, Mo, also shows not one but two Miami Dolphin teammates showing up, Calais Campbell and Jonnu Smith. Now, I understand, was it the smartest idea for teammates to show up during a situation like that where Tyreek is in cuffs and it's already an elevated situation? Maybe, maybe not. People can say what they want to say on that. But they ended up being cuffed as well. Apparently, Calais Campbell was told he was being arrested. For what? I don't know. He was not told for what either. But he ends up in handcuffs. And after all of this comes out, Mo, there was a statement released from someone attached to the Miami-Dade Police Department, not the sheriff or not the sergeant who initially made the statement originally. Someone else up the chain, basically saying that Tyreek Hill was never arrested. It lasted minutes. He was put into handcuffs to protect the other officers. It was a safety thing because he refused to roll down his window. Okay, listen, I fully respect, Mo, the fact that at any given moment, any interaction between a civilian and a police officer could end up being deadly for the police officer. We have seen so many stories where, a police officer stops someone from speeding, they walk up to the car, they're shot and killed. That's it. No idea who they were stopping, that there was no malice on the intent of the police officer. It is just, you pulled over the wrong person at the wrong time. They had something going on that they didn't want you to find out about. And we've seen numerous situations like that. I didn't see a single point in this altercation where I felt any of those police officers' lives were in danger. I didn't see a single point in this altercation where I felt like Tyreek Hill was out of control. I didn't see a single point in this altercation where I felt there was a need for any bit of force. What I saw was a situation where when Tyreek Hill asked the officer to not bang on his window, which he has every right to do, I saw the officer become agitated. You could hear it in his voice. And from there, that set the scene for everything that took place after it. Mike McDaniel spoke about this yesterday. He was very emotional speaking about it. He acknowledged that he has no idea what this feels like, and he will never know what this feels like. And that bothers him as well, because it's something that he will never be able to relate to, even though it's something that one of his players and a community within his organization is going through. The Miami Dolphins also released a statement yesterday calling the behavior of these police officers disgusting, saying that something needs to change. This was not handled correctly. They then backed it up by saying, "We appreciate the Miami-Dade police force, but this is not something we can stand behind." So the Dolphins organization has supported Tyreek Hill. His head coach has supported Tyreek Hill. The players that showed up and showed out, as well as the support he got when he got into the facility on Sunday. Tyreek Hill has said himself that he cannot believe the number of guys that supported him with this situation. But Mo, I mean, that's great, right? After the fact, it's great that the team
Sure.
statement. It's great that, your head coach did what he did, and acknowledged the fact that, I don't know what this feels like. I'm never going to know. And that was the part for me that I appreciated, because, it's a sensitive topic, and you got a white head coach, you have an African-American player, like the white guy is never going to know what the black guy just went through. Like Mike McDaniel is never going to find himself in a situation that's probably comparable to what Tyreek Hill just went through. And the fact that he was able to acknowledge, one, I'm never going to find myself in that spot, because that's the world we live in. Like, I'm never going to be in a spot like that. And it's not because I'm better than you. It's not because I did anything different. It's just by default that I'm never going to be in that spot. And then for him to back it up and be like, and that's BS. It's BS that just because of how I look, I'm never going to have to feel the struggle that you went through, just because you were trying to drive to work. Like, all you did was drive to work, and you had to go through that whole thing. And that is something I'm never going to be able to experience or relate to. So I don't know how you feel, but I know it's pretty crappy. But again, Mo, it's great. It's great the Dolphins said what they said. It's great that Mike McDaniel said what he said. It's great that his teammates had his back. It's great that Drew Rosenhaus was there at a moment's notice.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Client. But at the end of the day, Mo, it doesn't make anything better. It doesn't take away what initially happened. And it's an issue. And we are constantly reminded of this issue in the U.S. And we're not trying to sit here and make this a political show this morning
At all.
But at the end of the day, you can't look at it and just take well, the Dolphins said nice words. Well, Mike McDaniel said nice words. Well, the guy was placed on administrative leave. Well, his teammates showed up, and so that's great. All of those things after the fact are great, because that is the community that is the Miami Dolphins. That is the community that is the NFL. That's the bond that apparently Drew Rosenhaus has with his players, that he's going to show up at the scene and be like, let me see if I can help too. That's all great after the fact. It doesn't change, Mo, that it happened in the first place.
It doesn't. And I've been seeing different reports. I've actually seen people on the news saying, well, you have to realize that these officers, they're human beings. They have families. They have issues that they have to carry with them on to work. And I completely understand that. But that's not really an excuse to behave the way you behave. You could have just gotten into an argument. Maybe a bill was late and you're upset and you left the house, just not your best self. When you put on that uniform, your job is to serve and protect, and you got to leave whatever's angering you or bothering you. You got to set that aside and be a professional. And I felt like that the lead officer was agitated from the jump. He was clear, he was just agitated. And I felt, again, this is just me watching it take place, that he felt, and maybe to a degree it's true, that Tyreek was being a little arrogant, right? With the window thing and not moving as quickly. But it escalated in a way that there's no excuse for that. And the way they slammed them to the ground, and he's talking to them, and he's not fighting, he's not resisting.
Nope.
And he actually explained to him, he said, I just had surgery on my knee. And the cop goes, oh, what a coincidence. Did you know what I mean? Like, you need surgery on your ears or something to that effect. And I'm like, way out of hand. It was way out of hand. And he's going to the ground, and he's telling Drew Rosenhaus, I'm being arrested, Drew. I'm getting arrested right now, right? Like, he didn't even have his hands on his phone. And it's a familiar scene.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Chris, I thought to myself, that's Tyreek Hill. That's all pro wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who I would have to assume is known all over the place, but especially in the Miami area. You know who Tyreek Hill is. I'm not talking about him getting special treatment. What I am saying is the way he was treated and Tyreek brought this up. He said, that happened to me. What if it was just some 22-year-old kid going home from work and he was speeding and they pulled him over? Would it have ended that way? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it could have ended much worse. When Calais Campbell pulled up, the two teammates, I thought it was strange. Calais Campbell really was asking what's going on. What you know? Hey, what's going on? They're manhandling Tyreek. He's pointing that out. He's talking to Drew. He said they're manhandling, and the officer's like, "Get back in the car. Get back in the car. You can't park right there." And he's still asking questions. They're saying, "Get back in the car." And then when he goes to get to the car, he goes, "Who's the driver?" And he goes, "It's my car." And the officer just snaps. First he goes, license and registration. Then he goes to, he wants to detain him. He wants to arrest him too. Like, it was completely out of hand. But in this country, far too often, we see these kind of incidents, and these are people who are high profile people treated that way. I'm not saying anybody should be treated differently because of your status, but I am saying that if they can do that to somebody who's high profile, what happens to just the average Joe going home, the average African American young man going home, and maybe you don't roll down your window fast enough? Maybe they don't have their cameras on, because that it's strange because it escalated, but they had their cameras on, and I think they were aware of it. I think they caught themselves at some point. But there are other times where, strangely enough, the cameras go off in some of these incidents. And I'm not going to make it political, but how does this not impact your community? How does this not impact the way you feel? If I'm Tyreek Hill and I'm driving in my car now, I think you feel differently. You that happening to anybody, Tyreek Hill, you, me, that happening to anybody, that's demeaning. It is demeaning. It's almost dehumanizing. And this isn't me, badgering police, because I have nothing but respect for police and everything that they have to deal with. This just was a situation that was not handled well. And when I saw one of the statements that said, well, Mr. Hill didn't comply, and so this is why it escalated. And I was like, he complied. Maybe he didn't comply as quick as you, but he complied. And especially when you literally pulled him out of the car as if it was a drug bust, and he's getting a knee to the back. And I'm like, he needed a knee to the back? No resistance. Like, come on. You have to do better than that.
And yeah, let's not forget, the Miami-Dade Police Force, they're the ones that provide security at home Miami Dolphin games. The Dolphins pay them separately. They are not paid by the police force. But is that not awkward? Is that not are you buddies with that guy? The one that put the knee in Tyreek? Like,
right.
It's weird. Is it not weird now? Because you have this relationship with the team, does the police force, and I don't know the guy's name, but I'm sure he has friends on the police force.
Correct.
So now you got this situation where it's like, who you friends with him? Because that was like, it's just weird. It's weird for no reason now. And it is obviously it's a bigger issue of something much larger than just what took place in Miami Sunday morning. But again, and even in the Dolphins statement, they put Tyreek's quote in there of, what if it wasn't Tyreek Hill?
I think that says it all.
That says it all. What if it wasn't Tyreek Hill? Because like you said, Mo, it did look like as the video progressed, it dawned on them, oh, this is being recorded. This is all going to come out.
Right.
Maybe it dawned on them, oh, there's 45 people around us with cell phones out too. Like, every angle of this is going to come out. And maybe that slightly altered their behavior a little bit towards the end. But at that point, we were already far too gone to save the situation.
I think it also altered how quickly the camera or the video was made available, because if they didn't make it available, there were a lot of freelancers there with their phones.
There was plenty.
Right. They were going to make it available, so they had no choice but to try to get ahead of it.
The only thing the freelancers didn't get was the start of the stop, but they got everything else.
Correct.
All right, Mo, let's pivot to this. We had football last night. It was your team, the San Francisco 49ers. A little bit of a shocker, if you will. CMC did not play. CMC didn't even hit the injury report until Saturday. And even when he hit the injury report, it didn't seem like it was a huge deal. And then we find out that he's not playing Monday night. We'll get to that in a second. But obviously, big night for Aaron Rodgers as far as in the last 500 days, Mo, he's took 4 snaps under center. That has a mental side to it that I cannot even begin to imagine. He said all the right things after the game. He said that it's been a while, a lot of gratitude just to be back in the pads. So many people helped me get to this point. It was great to see Aaron and the quotes that he had. We'll get to Aaron in a minute, but obviously the person of the night, Mr. Jordan Mason, stepping in there for CMC. Unfortunately for Mr. Jordan Mason, he may have given us too much information last night, Mo, letting us know that he found out on Friday that he would be starting for the Niners on Monday night, which is an issue because CMC doesn't hit the injury report until Saturday, and we don't find out until after that he's not playing. So the NFL is definitely going to probably be launching an investigation into San Francisco.
Book it.
Figure out when CMC was actually hurt, why we didn't find out sooner. There will probably be a fine. But man, Jordan Mason looked great last night, Mo. There is definitely some depth at the running back, but I'm not saying he's as good as CMC.
No doubt.
But there is definitely some depth at the running back position with your 49ers.
And he's actually the third running back.
Yep.
I was concerned because I didn't see a lot of him. And so I thought he's going to be a bigger part of the offense. I had no idea how productive he would be, but he was so impressive last night because he was a one cut back. He'd make one cut and then he would attack the defense. And look, he had a lot of help. The 49ers offensive line literally controlled the line of scrimmage. They moved. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect they'd be able to move the Jets defense around the way they did. They manhandled them. They scored. They ran the ball 35 times as a team, 28 by Mason. And I really thought they just dominated both sides of the football. Now, look, they only sacked Aaron Rodgers one time on defense, but I thought they made him uncomfortable throughout the game. And the thing that I noticed, at least this is what I saw in my eyes, the way that he normally extends plays with his legs, he didn't look right. He didn't look the same. And that could be rust. That could be a combination of rust and that injury, because maybe your stride just isn't quite the same. He made 2 great throws I thought in the game that had you going, that's Aaron Rodgers. But there were a lot of other moments where he looked like an old quarterback.
And again, I mean, you look at Aaron, you look at Daniel Jones, you look at Kirk Cousins. These are 3 quarterbacks, different ages, different spots in their careers, different success levels in their careers. But these are 3 quarterbacks who are coming back from serious injuries last season. And the one thing that all 3 of them had in common, besides not playing great football week 1, was that there were times in the game where it looked like they just didn't trust their own bodies. There were times in the game where, Daniel Jones, who I think is probably the most mobile of the 3 of them, he did not take off. He did not move. He stood in the pocket a little bit longer, and he just chose not to use his legs. There were times where normally you would see Kirk Cousins step up into the pocket, and he chose to throw off his back foot instead of moving up into the pocket where he most likely would have taken a hit, or he would have had people around his feet falling down. He didn't do that. Aaron Rodgers is the master at stepping up and moving 2 steps to the left or 2 steps to the right, and then just having the entire pass rush go past him, and then he completes the dime. He did not do that last night. Now, he had that one great pass late in the third quarter. It was the dime that he threw after he got them to jump off sides. Classic Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
They jump off sides. He sees the flag. He does the classic Aaron one-handed pump. You know it's coming. He's taking the shot down the field. and he just drops the absolute dime for the touchdown. But Mo, we were done at that point. They were cooked at that point. It was 26-7. At that point, he made it 26-14. Oh, and by the way, he didn't play much longer after that. Aaron didn't finish the game.
He did not.
Listen, I don't know how he was feeling. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any of that information. I didn't watch the press conference after the game. But you look at that situation, it's what, a 14 to 12 point game at that point, 26-14, 12-point game. I believe the Niners scored again after that, and that the Jets got the final score of the game. So when Aaron came out, it would have been like a 20-point game or whatever it was. But kind of a weird look. I get it. You got to protect him for the season. If you think you're not going to win, you're not going to win. But there was still some time left. I don't know. I thought that was a little odd. But good for Tyrod Taylor get in there. He led him on a scoring drive in garbage time to make it a little bit closer than it probably should have been, 32-19. But man, if you are someone that picked the New York Jets to win the division, to go to the AFC Championship game, to be in the Super Bowl, we got some work to do. And it's not just Aaron Rodgers and the offense, Mo. There were some serious defensive lapses in that game. Now, you look across the NFL this week in week one, you can name a team. We can talk about how the offense didn't look great. There were very few teams. The Saints were one of them. The Buccaneers were one of them. The Cowboys were one of them where they looked great the entire game. The offense just was humming for those teams. Everyone else, they had moments where they were up and down. It makes sense. It's week one. But the other side of that was the good defenses. They were good week one. Steelers defense played great week one. Cowboys defense played great week one. So you look at the defensive side of it, and the defenses always come out a little stronger earlier in the season. Look at the Cleveland Browns last season. And then the offenses catch up a little bit once they get their timing down. Did not look good last night for the New York Jets. There were a lot of mental gaffes. There were a lot of scheming issues, and I don't want to hear, the Niners always have Aaron Rodgers. No. This is different team, different situation,
right?
Different personnel, all right? And we're not even talking about the offensive side of the football. We're talking about the defensive side of the football. Do the Niners always have Robert Saleh's defensive number? No, they don't. So this was not a Niners scheme issue. This was a Jets preparedness, their own game plan, making adjustments during the game issue. Robert Saleh was very, very transparent and blunt after the game. He said, we'll get this shit fixed, which I hope you do, Saleh. I hope you get it fixed, because if that's the defense you're going to run out there the next handful of games. Now, remember, their schedule lightens up, Mo. They got the hard one to open with San Francisco, and now the cupcakes are coming through. And of course, every game in the NFL, I get it, guys. I get it. Every game in the NFL is hard. Any given Sunday, I totally understand that. But now they got what? They got Tennessee coming into town. They got the Patriots. They got the Broncos. I mean, listen. If they're not beating the Titans and the Patriots and the Broncos, this is not a Super Bowl team. This is not a team that should be getting AFC Championship credibility. I don't care how early it is. I don't care how rusty Aaron Rodgers is. If you're losing to Will Levis and Jacoby Brissett and Bo Nix, we got some issues. I think they're going to get am I wrong? Like, come on. I get
it. If they lose, if they don't win all those games, I'm saying all of them.
Sounds worse when I say the names of the starting quarterbacks, doesn't it?
Right. Not go 2-1, but if they don't,
they need to win those games.
Right. If they don't win all three of those games, they have problems.
The next four quarterbacks they face, Mo: Will Levis, Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix, and Sam Darnold. That's your next month of football. If you are a New York Jets fan, you got to win all four of those games. You have to.
I think we talked about the possibility of maybe them losing in week one, because those are evenly matched teams, or supposedly. So it could have gone either way. And I actually expected more of their defense. I knew their defense was good, but not great against the run last year. They were horrible last night. Like, I mean, to the point of attack, they were horrible. They just got moved around, and there was no physicality coming from that defense. And I thought it was smart of Shanahan, the way he schemed it. He was like, I'm not going to attack them vertically. Everything's going to be underneath. We're going to run the football. We're going to run the football, and we're going to play safe in the passing game. There were a couple of throws that Purdy made where you're like, what the hell are you doing? There were a couple of those, but for the most part, he ran the offense the way they wanted it ran. Look, if you're the Jets, like you said, you got to sweep those upcoming games. You have to. If you don't, I don't know how you could be taken serious in the AFC period. I'm the kind of guy that goes, again, let's not panic after week one. It's a disappointing loss, but it was a loss that was possible. You could have lost to the Niners. That was a possibility. You're not supposed to lose to Jacoby Brissett, Bo Nix, Sam Darnold. Who else am I leaving out? There's one more.
Will Levis.
You definitely don't. You don't lose to that guy. I mean, you know how many times I've seen the highlight of when he flicks that ball out and the DB just catches it in stride, and as the DB catches it, Will Levis goes like this.
Right. Remember his first game? Remember his first game, and he lit it up. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, Will Levis!" And we were like, "Hang on. We watched him play. Can we relax? We watched him play in college. Hang on a second. Let's see game 2." And we're like, "Oh, there he is. There's that guy, that Will Levis guy that we all know and love."
You know,
have you seen his mayonnaise commercial?
I have not.
Man's got a mayonnaise.
He had a commercial.
Man's got a mayonnaise commercial. It's a good one. You should check it out.
My guess is this week, this Sunday, this coming week, the Titans run the ball 45 or 50 times.
Right.
Even on 3rd and long. You know what? We trust Tony Pollard.
But that's the other part of it, though, Mo. I mean, unless the Jets fix what we saw scheme-wise and assignment-wise, the Niners laid out the blueprint to beat this Jets defense. You're not going to attack them down the field if you're going to go under and you're going to run. So if you have a decent running game and you have an accurate enough quarterback and you can work the underneath stuff with some speed guys, Miami, you are looking at a way where you can expose the New York Jets defense. Now, Cottrell put in the chat, maybe Robert Saleh isn't a good coach. We don't know. And isn't that kind of the question that we've all kind of wondered throughout all of this? Because you bring in a guy like Robert Saleh and you look at his first, couple of seasons with the team, and he had terrible quarterbacks. He had Zach Wilson, and nothing against Zach Wilson, but Zach Wilson isn't a really good quarterback. And then he gets year one Aaron Rodgers, and he gets hurt early, and you basically just say free pass for all of last season. And then when the season is over, you look at the season, you go, damn, what if they had Joe Flacco? They're probably a playoff team last season with the way that defense played and the emergence of that wide receiver in Wilson. You look at that schedule and you look at the handful of games that they lost that they were really competitive in. I mean, they beat the Eagles last season. And you look at that and you go, if they had a decent backup, which, by the way, Flacco was in their building the season prior. If they had a decent backup, they could have snuck into the playoffs last season. So you take all of that and you come into this season, and those are the expectations you're looking at. And Mo, I look at week one and I say it could have been 35-32. Doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. A win is a win. Obviously, they didn't look great in the process. You would have preferred for them to look better, but you don't feel better if you lose closer. A loss is a loss. It all counts the same. So you still got to get down to work. You got Will Levis and company coming up this weekend. If you lose by 30 to the Niners or you lose by 1, you better beat Will Levis regardless. It doesn't matter how bad you lost to the 49ers. You still need to go beat the Tennessee Titans. So it's one of those things where as long as they beat Tennessee, we're good. Because now you look at it like, oh, we're 1-1 and we got 3 more cupcakes coming up, except for that one guy, the next incarnation of Steve Young. He's doing his thing out there, which, by the way, guys,
he looked
Sam
great.
Darnold looked great.
Week 1. He looked great week 1.
I mean,
but he was playing against a team that might be worse than the Titans.
Correct. We'll give Sam Darnold a couple more weeks to see how he looks, but he looked good week 1, guys. But
I think Trail brings up a great point, Chris. I don't know how good a Coach Saleh is. Like
you don't know.
You know that deal where some guys are really good coordinators, but they're not good coaches. They're not. That everybody's not fit out to run the show and be the guy. And I don't know if he's. I think that's what we're looking at here. He's gotten a couple of passes, but if they come up short this season, I don't think he gets another pass. I think they move on, or maybe he stays there and takes a step back and becomes a coordinator. Very few people do that, though. If they tell you, like, well, we don't want you to be a head coach no more, but we still want you to be part of the organization, most people will take that as a slap in the face. Maybe he'll be like, yeah, I'm probably better off being a coordinator. What I think he is I think he's great at motivating guys. I don't think he's shown that he's a great head coach or even a very good head coach just yet.
Well, and he's a defensive guy, and
right.
It's the tired old cliche, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, defensive head coaches struggle in the NFL. For every successful defensive-minded head coach, look at who their offensive coordinator is. That's kind of what offsets that. You don't usually see the combo of a really great defensive-minded head coach and an average offensive coordinator. That's usually not a huge recipe for championship or playoff success. Doesn't mean you can't win games. Doesn't mean you can't even make the playoffs. But, we talk more than that. We're looking to win playoff games, make it to conference championships, and you don't see a lot of defensive-minded head coaches with average OCs doing that. And then, unfortunately, when you have a great OC that does that, what happens, Mo? They're gone the next season. Right. They go get their own head coaching job, and then it becomes a whole thing again. So maybe Cottrell is right. Maybe Robert Saleh isn't all that great of a head coach, and we haven't been talking about it. Oh, Zach Wilson. Oh, Rodgers got hurt. It is what it is. It's a wash of a season anyways. And now maybe we're talking 2 years later, a conversation we should have been having 2 years ago about whether or not Robert Saleh is cut out to be a head coach in the NFL. All right, Mo, let's pivot to this. Very interesting when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So let's own it. I was part of this. I think you were part of this as well. The entire summer, the narrative with the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott was clearly you don't like what you got. Clearly you don't respect Dak Prescott. Clearly it looks like you don't want him as your quarterback next season and in future seasons, because if you did, you would have signed him a year and a half ago. If you did, you would have signed him right when the season ended. If you did, you would have signed him before training camp. That's all. We talked about this all summer long. I had him going to be the quarterback of the New York Jets. I had Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking the Dallas Cowboys. I had all these things lining up, Mo. And then Jerry Jones turns around and makes him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, $60 million a year, 4-year, $240 million extension. So what is the talk Monday morning on sports radio? Is Dak Prescott worth the money? You can't have it both ways. You can't sit here all summer and say that Jerry Jones disrespected Dak Prescott and didn't value his franchise quarterback and didn't want his franchise quarterback, and it was a slap in the face to what Dak has done for the Dallas Cowboys. And then when Jerry turns around and pays him his money, well, is he worth $60 million a year? If Jerry didn't give it to him, the New York Jets or some other team was going to give it to him.
Oh, facts.
He was going to make $60 million a year next year. It was just a question of, was it for the Dallas Cowboys or was it for another team? You listen, there is so much stuff you can slam Jerry Jones for, but you can't slam him for not paying Dak and then turn around a day later and slam him for paying Dak. You can't do that, people.
No. And look, you and I were both on that same wave where we were like, well, looks like Dak's going to be finishing his career somewhere else. And the NFL genius was right there with us, which, by the way, brings up the other question. Because
when's Micah getting paid?
Well, I'm bringing that up because I hope we can get the NFL genius when he comes on tomorrow to let us know, because the thinking was you can't pay all three. Well, if you paid two of them, what does that say for Micah Parsons? Because I was told you couldn't pay all three.
Right.
So how does that work going forward? Are they going to be able to do some kind of salary cap gymnastics and make people restructure or create some money or something to that extent? Because I have to assume once Micah Parsons gets paid, he's probably going to be the highest paid defensive player in football.
And then no one's got money.
Right. And exactly.
$45 hot dogs at Jerry World because we got the highest paid quarterback, receiver, and defensive player on the same team.
Popcorn and soda, $40.
But we're right though. We thought you couldn't pay all three. We agreed with Gene that you couldn't pay all three. I don't think we agreed with who they should pay. I think we both were on board that Dak should be the one getting paid, but we all agreed you can't pay all three. They're not going to let Micah Parsons walk. They're going to figure out a way to pay him. But what does that look like? Who are they not paying? I mean, they already don't have running backs. Is that just how it's going to be? We're not going to have any running backs. We have no receivers after CD. Like, what is that going to look like? Because some part of this team is going to be in dire straits if they pay Micah Parsons as well.
And they're going to be in salary cap hell.
Right.
When you pay all three of them. And what are they going to do? Like, have a bunch of rookies or second-year players starting who aren't ready to start? Like, you are going to lose some of your veteran core players on both sides of the football if you pay. Look, like I said, I think once Parsons gets paid, Chris, he's probably going to be the highest paid defensive football player. I believe that. And he's done, for the most part, what Dak has done. He's talked about Dak's situation and how Dak should be getting paid, but he hasn't talked about himself that much. And to his credit, maybe he's playing it smart, because the one thing Dak Prescott did, I thought he played the role of the company man. He never said anything negative. He didn't demand anything. He said, well, I don't worry about what Jerry says. I'm just going to go out and handle what I can handle. And lo and behold, the day of the football game, hey, Dak, before you guys go out there to warm up, let me talk to you for a minute. We're going to pay you. We got some money. I mean, who saw that coming? Like, we're going to pay you. We don't know why we would. They literally waited to the last minute. Which I don't understand that, because if you're going to do that, you could have done that months ago, but whatever. Maybe.
Okay, Jerry.
I think Jerry just likes the drama, right?
Right. What did you think of Tom Brady's debut in the booth?
He'll get better.
It was a little underwhelming, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's the way some people said where he was god awful. I don't think he was god awful. I just thought he'll get better. I thought he would be a better version of Romo, right? Romo's very comfortable talking. He can also break down a couple of plays, and I thought he would be that. And he sounded more, and this is not good, by the way. He sounded a lot like Joe Montana when Joe tried to do it.
Oh, that's not good at all.
And Joe was probably the worst. And I love Joe, but he was horrible. But I think Brady is so manic that he will take the tape from the first game. He's probably watching it right now, getting into his studio. He'll get better. Look, he might get off to a little bit of a rough start, but I still think he's going to be very good at it. Everybody's not a natural right away. Like I thought the guy he replaced, Greg Olsen, was awesome, right? He just gets it, and it seems natural when he does it. Tom seemed a little stiff game one, but I think he'll get better.
Someone is apologizing to Tom Brady this morning or yesterday morning. It was Scott Hanson. We know Scott Hanson. Scott Hanson is over there on the Red Zone channel. He does amazing work, by the way. What a gig he has. But he made a comment on, I don't know if he made it during the broadcast or I think he made it during the broadcast. But the Cowboys were lining up for a 71-yard field goal And Scott Hansen did not feel like Brady was excited enough in the booth for that moment. And he said Tom Brady's got to be more excited for that when he's calling a game in the booth, because 71-yard field goal, that's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, I can just hear in the back of my head the nonsense that Tony Romo would be spewing watching a 71-yard field goal attempt. So it is what it is. I think he had a point. I think Brady should have been a little more excited for it. But Scott Hansen walked it back. He said yesterday morning, that was unfair and inconsiderate of me. Yes, I was saying it tongue-in-cheek, but I didn't calculate how it may come across. Tom Brady, I apologize. I promise I am rooting for you on this new venture. Tom Brady responded on X and said, the rookie appreciates you, Scott Hansen. No apology necessary, my man. Life is too short to not have fun. We're officially on 70-yarder watch, and I'm going to spike my headset the next time that it happens.
Now, that Tom Brady right there, that's the Tom Brady I need in the booth.
Correct.
Guy.
I need the Tom Brady that we see in those Tostitos commercials lately.
Yes.
I see Tom Brady and Julian Edelman popping up everywhere in Tostitos commercials. That's the Tom Brady that we need to see in the booth. Mo, it's got to be awkward. Like, I don't care how much you practice it, but you can't see or hear yourself in real time. So you're in the booth. You got everything that's going on in your head from a technical side. You're watching the game from a different perspective than you've ever watched the game before. You're trying to play off the person who is next to you and the vibe that it's so many different things. And then in the back of your mind, you're like, I'm on national TV. I'm in front of 30 million people or 20 million people. Or 20 million people are watching this game. Everyone knows it's my first game. Half the country hates me just because I'm Tom Brady. Like, you got all those things going through your head. It's weird. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. I don't think he was horrible. I think he was subpar. I think we're going to see a better version of Tom Brady in week 2.
I think so too. You every point you hit on is spot on. All that was going on. Everything's in his head. You're trying to connect and build chemistry with the play-by-play guy. And you know that millions and millions of people are listening and watching you. And you're like, this is one of those moments where I can't say the wrong thing, right? I can't get so comfortable. And that's another thing you have to be aware of. You can't say the things that you might say if you're at the crib watching a football game. And I think that I think what really happened to Tom, I thought he was okay, but what got to him, I think he overthought. I think he got into his own head. And if he just relaxes and he's more himself, don't be so buttoned up, but be more yourself. I think when that comes out, he's going to do fine. He's going to be good. I have no doubt when it's all said and done, Tom Brady will be good at he'll be good at this like he is at everything else he puts his mind to.
Do you remember on draft night, Mo, when the Chicago Bears drafted a punter?
Yes.
Do you recall what happened after they drafted that punter?
I don't recall that part, but I remember
Caleb Williams called the punter and said, "Don't worry, you won't be punting much here."
Love the confidence. I wonder what the punter says now.
All over the internet after the Bears week 1 victory, where there were a lot of punts in that game because the Bears offense was a bit anemic, less than 100 yards passing for Caleb Williams. It's all good though. It's all good. Mo, before we get out of here, let's talk a little Colorado football. Colorado is, I believe they're 1-7 or 1-8 in their last 8 or 9 games here. Not a great run right now for the Colorado football program, but I want to specifically talk about this. So obviously, Shedeur Sanders has a great talent, very athletic. He is already being forecasted as going very high in the upcoming NFL draft. And I don't know if a lot of people have talked about this, so I wanted to bring it up with you here this morning. Is it going to hurt Shedeur that he was coached by his dad? Because I watched the game this weekend, and Shedeur is the talk because with 2 minutes to go in a losing effort, he leaves the field. Very LeBron-esque, right? Like LeBron got killed when he would leave the finals floor with 45 seconds to play. You know, where's LeBron going? Terrible teammate. Look at him walking away, walking out on his... Okay, guys, calm down. I have no issue with Shedeur leaving. I don't know why he left. I'm sure it was for a medical reason. I'm sure he was getting something looked at. Didn't really matter. No, it did not matter. The offense, it's not like the offense went back on the field and they were like, "Where's Shedeur? We're gonna win this game, and he's not here." Now that wasn't the situation. But after the game, Shedeur was talking about the loss and took a shot at his offensive line. I'll paraphrase here, but he basically said that, the game plan was to run the football. And when you can't run the football, and by the way, if you can't run the football, why can't you run the football? It's because of your offensive line. He goes, when you can't run the football, it is what it is. Okay, Shedeur. By the way, if you can't run the football, it's because of your offensive line. Those are also the guys that protect your ass. So I don't know, Mo, if I would be necessarily taking shots at my entire offensive line after a game that we just lost, knowing that they're the ones that are going to keep me upright in a game. And I listened to those comments and I said to myself, he's just a kid, he's going to learn, he's going to get better. You hear a lot of star quarterbacks in college say some wonky things every now and then because they're kids. They're 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They're getting asked a lot of questions all the time, and they can't always be buttoned up like a Russell Wilson would be every time a microphone is in their face. But then, Mo, I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, how much of that is just him being a kid? How much of that is him being a little immature and inexperienced? And how much of that is the fact that his dad is his head coach? We're not in the locker room. I don't know how much Shedeur is held accountable for things that he does or does not do on the field. I don't know what kind of clout Deion allows his son to have in the locker room when it comes to being a leader of that team or being held accountable for that team. I know that if I was the head coach and my starting quarterback called out my offensive line the way that he did and essentially blamed them for the game plan not working, I would have my quarterback's ear and then he would be addressing the team in the locker room because that's kind of BS if you ask me. But is that how it works in Colorado? I don't know. Is it an environment where maybe he's on a pedestal and he can get away with saying things like that, where another starting quarterback for another program wouldn't dare throw his entire offensive line under the bus because, it's kind of not how you do things, Mo. Or is it just one of those things where he just misspoke and we're making more out of it than we need to be making out of it? But I think it brings up the bigger question of what is this going to look like as the season goes on? Because is this not the kind of stuff that could hurt someone's draft stock a little bit? The last thing you need is a starting quarterback who, let's be honest, it's not like he's going to come into the league with Caleb Williams, Andrew Luck, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow hype. He is going to come in as probably the best quarterback in his draft class. People are going to be excited about him, but he's not going to come in with the ceiling of those guys that I just mentioned. So when you take all of that into consideration, Mo, unless you're the Dallas Cowboys who don't give a damn about that stuff, you have to look at it and say, well, is he coming in with an ego? Is he coming from a program where he was coached by his dad, where he was protected, where he wasn't criticized, where things weren't his fault? And if they were his fault, it wasn't just his fault. It was his fault, but it was also this other person's fault or this other grouping's fault, because that's not any better. When he does shoulder the accountability, if he's shouldering it with someone else, isn't it almost like he isn't shouldering it at that point? And I don't have those answers. I have no idea what kind of accountability he has in that locker room. But you hear some of his comments this season, and there was another one that he made after week 1, too, where I was kind of like, okay, I don't know if I would have said that, whatever. But now here we are 2 weeks in. He's had 2 weird comments back-to-back weeks. I don't know what that looks like, Mo.
And I think some of it is immaturity. Some of it is he's a young kid. Some of it also is frustration. Colorado, for better or worse, has a spotlight on them. Mm-hmm. Even though nobody expects them to be contending for a national championship, they have a huge spotlight on them, and there's more than half people want them to fail and half want them to succeed. And I do think, I don't know if Shedeur has an ego, but he comes with an ego and that's his dad.
Right.
There is an ego in the room, and it's a huge ego. And if he's upset with the offensive line, maybe he should complain to his head coach, because his head coach is the one that brought those guys in, that recruited those guys. They couldn't run block last year. They couldn't protect the quarterback last year. They went out and got some new guys. And let's be honest, they don't have the blue chip offensive line guys. They don't have those guys. And they don't have the blue chip defensive line guys. And so they're essentially the same team. Can't protect the quarterback, can't stop the run, can't run the football. And look, Shadour's not flawless. He holds on to the ball too long. And for a guy who has the athleticism that he has, he would rather pat the ball and hold the ball than take off. He doesn't run. And they talk a lot about his athleticism. He doesn't really use it very often. He would rather scramble and pat the ball than turn a loss into a 6-yard gain. So he's not without flaw or criticism. I really just think in the end, because of the attention that Deion has brought in to Colorado, Nebraska is not going to be the best team they face this year. They're not. And that's scary. I'm of the belief they're going to have a similar season this year that they had last year, because they actually went out and scheduled against some well-known schools. And maybe that's Deion being Deion and going, we're going to show you how good we are. I think he's got to come to reality. Like, bro, you got to recruit a lot better and a lot harder. You've got to be able to take away some of those guys that the bigger schools get. Because right now, between Shedeur and Hunter, every team they play, you can lock in on those two guys, because one, you can get to the quarterback. Two, there's no threat that they can run. And three, when you're on offense, even if you're a passing team, you can run the ball down their throat. So there's a problem. I do think, though, Chris, in the bigger question, if I'm looking to bring in a guy who could be my franchise quarterback, I think I have some concerns. Look, the season's not over, but I think that the way you handle things in wins and losses does matter. And it shows your character or lack thereof, or your leadership or lack thereof. And I think that Shedeur was complaining in week 1 when they pulled out a victory. And he complained again last week. I just think that you can have internal conversations with teammates and, hey, look, you guys got to be better. I got to be better. This is what we can do, rather than, well, the game plan was to run the ball, but it is what it is. Like you know the strengths and weaknesses of your team. And so I just think that, what if Shedeur is more hype than reality, right? Like, how do I know that when he gets to the next level that, you can book him, Mo, he's going to be a monster? I've heard that a lot of times. And I know when Jameis Winston came out of college with all that hype, he was going to be this phenom, and he hasn't been that. I hope that as the season progresses, Shedeur becomes more mature, handles things in a better way. But you brought up a good point. In that locker room, is he treated different from the other players because his pops is coaching him? And even though he's a terrific talent, is it to the point where Deion treats him and Travis Hunter differently than the other guys, right? I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm not in that locker room. I haven't a clue. But if that is something that's going on in any kind of way, that doesn't bode well for team chemistry.
Well, let's not forget, I mean, we're looking at a college football program in Colorado, and I get it. They started off 3-0 last season. It was all the hype around this team. They knock off TCU, who is coming off of an appearance for the national championship. Then they go on and they beat Nebraska. They blow them out. They have a back and forth overtime thriller with Colorado State after all the trash talk the Colorado State head coach had going into that game. And Mo, since week 3 of last season, this has been a really bad football program. Like you said, they get a lot of national attention, but they're a really bad football program. They got destroyed by number 6 Oregon. They lost a shootout to USC. They beat Arizona State. That was their last win. So October 7th, 2023, That was their last win of last season. They lose a shootout to Stanford. They get beat by UCLA. They lose a close one to Oregon State. They lose a close one to Arizona. They get rolled by Washington State. They lose a close one to Utah. And then we come into this season. They beat North Dakota State to open up. Not a great game, by the way. It was a game they very easily could have lost. They didn't look great in that game. Their defense still couldn't stop anything. And then they come and they get rolled up by Nebraska. They got Colorado State coming in. They beat them last season. But you're looking at a team that since October 7th of last season, they have one win. And that was their first game this season. This is not a good college football program. No. And now you're going to lose Shedeur and Travis Henry in the draft.
Oh, my God.
Why does everyone think Deion Sanders is as invested as he is in this team? Because I'm looking at it and I go, what are we staying in Colorado for, Deion? You're bad with those two guys who you love on your team. You're bad with them. You may not win any games when they leave. What are we doing? All you people. Oh, no. He is dead. He is bought in. He is Colorado until that. No, he is not, guys.
No, he's not.
He is looking for his next job after this season, unless something drastically changes, which, by the way, it's not going to.
I think Coach Prime leaves when Hunter and Shedeur leaves. He's looking for that call, right? Somebody's going to give a call up. He's going to be negotiating some kind of way. I think when they go, he goes.
And by the way, guys, Colorado State this weekend, sure, they can beat Colorado State, but then they got Baylor, UCF. They have ranked Kansas State, ranked Arizona. Cincinnati is a decent program. Texas Tech, ranked Utah, Kansas, and then ranked Oklahoma State. There might be 2 more wins on this schedule. Maybe.
But you brought up they barely beat Colorado State, and that's kind of a rivalry, right? So you don't think they want some get back from last year? Like, I don't think you can book that they win that game. I think that's going to be a shootout, right?
Then again, we've never heard of the Colorado State coach's head name until last season. He's going to say some stuff this week. He's going to got some words going into this game because you know what? Last season, it was the 2-0 Colorado Buffaloes. All the fanfare, all the noise. He was taking his shot. This season, it's the 1-1 Colorado Buffaloes that have won 2 games in almost the last calendar year. He ain't scared of them this time around.
Yeah, he's. You know what? Just put the microphone in front of him and let him go.
Right, let him go. Let him cook like we let Russ cook back in the day. Ooh. All right, Mo, that is it on what's today? Tuesday. Take us to the close for Tuesday.
Thank you guys so much for joining Chris and I this morning. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
We'll be back tomorrow morning, guys. The NFL genius himself is going to be on the show talking everything that happened in week 1 and helping us make our predictions for week number 2. All of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire.